Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of What Now? It's going to be an amazing episode again. Today, my guest is the world famous, legendary Crazy Legs from the Rocksteady crew. He's on time. Jeez, I can't even do an introduction and he's already in here. So, you know what? Let's just get it going. Thanks for joining us. I hope everyone is healthy and all that. We're going to start. Let's get him in here.
I don't do hip hop time. I don't do ghetto time. I don't do Latino time. I know you're waiting for me time, and I got to respect that.
I love you time. That's what it is. Because I've had guests that had me doing monologues for minutes, and minutes turn into hours in your head if you don't have anything to talk about. So,
Yes, like you got your questions prepped up and no one to ask them to.
Well, it's a conversation, so we're just gonna roll with what this is. First of all, thank you for wanting to be a guest.
I called you so many times. I was like, "Yo, you gotta get me on." Like, "What's up, son?"
Well, the thing is that I started this when the pandemic hit to motivate people and to inspire people. So I've had numerous of guests with inspiring stories in all types of creative industries, and I think you're an amazing guest to have because you have a story, you're inspiring, blah blah blah. I'm sure you hear that all the time. Boring to us who've known this story, but maybe pretty interesting to people that don't know you. I have my own audience that I bring in that may not know who you are. As crazy as that sounds, people may not know you.
Hey, Rob Manga knows me. That's all that matters.
I know, right? Well, that's the homie. So shout out to Rob. So first of all, like I said, I started this talk because of the pandemic. It's affected everyone, the whole cultural industry, the entertainment industry shut down. Artists were sitting at home, losing income. How has the pandemic affected you personally and business-wise?
Personally, first of all, I put things into perspective on a personal level. I figured I've had the opportunity to see amazing things in my life and travel the world. I feel like for me to sit back and feel sorry for myself and not reflect on the amount of amazing things that have happened in my life is kind of selfish.
Right.
So I allowed that to give me perspective, and I'm not like I feel like you have to decide how you're going to allow this to impact you. Some people are doing better than others. I think a person who comes from less will find it easier to deal with.
Right.
People who are living maybe an entitled or a sense of entitled lifestyle are going to have a much harder time dealing with it because they're so used to things just being one way. They're
right.
Born into a properly structured family, the typical idea of what a family is supposed to be. Sometimes they have these, the worst situation is their first world problems.
Yeah.
And for me, I was just like, I've been in Uganda. Like, imagine how hard it is for people in Uganda. Imagine how hard it is for people in India and so many other places who have less medical infrastructure to combat whatever's going on. Places that have way more corruption than we have over here. So there are a lot of people out there who have a much worse time than me for me to be sitting here and feeling sorry for myself. Financially, I would say, I'm fortunate to be part of Red Bull, where they made sure that they reached out to us and make sure that they allow us to generate opportunities to be creative and put forth ideas that they can get behind.
Hey, that's cool. Yeah.
So one of the things that Red Bull has done is when the whole George Floyd thing happened, they had reached out to me early in the game, and they were like, "Hey, what can we do as a company that helps to benefit Black and brown people?" And I was like, "All right, cool. Let let me pull back for a minute, you know, talk
Think
to some
about it.
heads.
Yeah.
Had a couple of Zoom calls with some people who are of African-American descent, Filipino descent, Puerto Rican, Latino, whatever. And we started talking about the things that exist within our communities, and had a couple of calls, took notes, went over those things, and presented that to Red Bull. And now we're at a point where we're at the next stage of saying, okay, yeah, it's going to get funded. It's not going to be a one-off. It's going to be a multi-year program, and it's going to help to support social justice, education, and arts through dancers. You know, so although dance will be a part of it, the focus is how we can help to elevate other activists or educators, people who may have a program that is really important to a community, where if that program didn't exist anymore, it would
really
create a lane for more problems.
Yeah.
So it's either like, you know, helping somebody to come up to what they want to be, or helping to push an organization to a higher level. So, you know, right now it's like, all right, I mean, I'm not going to give out too much because everything's still in the works, but
okay,
we're going to, it's about raising the volume on these people, giving them a better platform, creating a forest bias program that Red Bull will support in a big way, and just pushing things forward and making sure that by the time, you know, we come across these people, they're in a much better situation than they were before the opportunity happens. And, you know, providing them with tools, resources, and just a whole bunch of other things that I can't get into now.
That's
but
fine.
yeah, and the thing is that I feel like for anyone to, you know, be in this situation right now and not come out of it with something dope or be better than what you were before this all happened, and this is assuming that you have the means to do it and you have the partnerships and things like that to do it. You know, if you're not finding a lane, making yourself better, it's a problem. You're the problem. You're part of the problem. So for me to be able to, you know, have Red Bull approach me on that, and then, you know, them to say, hey, we're going to fund this, is pretty amazing. So, like, I can't front. I cried a little when they called me, and because I felt like, wow, because this is bigger than me. And it's going to impact a lot of people. And the thing is that this is one of those situations where, you know, it has to be a long game. You know, there are no immediate benefits for anyone. It's not necessarily something that benefits me outside of using my platform to help others. And you know, my thing is, how do we make sure those other people are elevated?
I think that's amazing that Red Bull initiated that or gave you the opportunity to do so, or anyone that works with them. Not only because it, like you said, it elevates other communities or other people, but also it keeps you creative, and you're used as some type of vessel to do that work. And I think it's very commendable that you do that. But I already knew that you were doing those type of things before the pandemic, so it's not, you know, it's not a surprise to me.
Yeah, but this time I have the opportunity to involve other, and then it's going to be a national program. So I reached out to people from, let's say, St. Paul, Minnesota. There's this one girl, Maria Isa, who was friends with George Floyd. She's involved. I've had people like Joe Conzo being part of it. I've had another girl named Janicia Garcia, who is an activist from Las Vegas, born and raised in the Bronx, but ended up in Las Vegas, and just a couple of other people who are not dancers as well to be involved.
You can just bring in other people. Yeah,
so the thing is like, for me, I feel like I have the ability to bring together a bunch of people who would establish their lanes or be resourceful towards this program, and then figure out, like, okay, who is best qualified to lead from a certain point on. I'll corral the people, but at the end of the day, I'm here being an artist and I want to do what I want to do. And I also know my limitations when it comes to managing certain logistics and the operations of a type of program like this. So I got to be honest with myself and not be that dude that's like, yo, this is my shit.
I'll do everything,
You know, and so I've already made the decision to take myself out of certain scenarios because it's not my cup of tea. I'm a frontline warrior dude. Like, give me an earthquake and I'm there. Give me a hurricane. I'll be there on the front line. I'll give my life. I'll give my life for people. You know, but certain other things, I think a lot of people who have more experience with that should be the ones. And honestly, the people who I'm suggesting it's mostly women. You know,
good.
You know, there's dudes involved, of course, but I think in this situation, yeah, there's my part as a man, but the greater part of this is going to have to be led by women.
I like that. Obviously, I'm a woman. But no, going back to what you said about people, you know, having to come out, needing to come out of this better than they got into this. For me, the reason why I started this talk, and it's funny because Skeet Richards was my first tryout guest, and it was basically to inspire and motivate people to get ideas on how to do that, because not everyone has the means, like you said, but also not everyone has that mind state. Everyone deals with pandemic and world problems in a different way. So for me, this was more to jumpstart people to see that the people that they look up to are also dealing with this. Everyone is dealing with this, and getting different angles on how to cope with it and how to stay creative and how to do your part. Whether it's, you know, finding a new mental health routine, or a physical health routine, or contributing to, you know, making the world a better place through activism or whatever. So that's really the goal and the aim of this talk. So I appreciate you talking about what you're doing and how you feel like you're blessed to be in a situation where you can do that, that you may be more fortunate than others, but it inspires people.
Yeah, and you know, I think that one of the things that we have to be careful with and aware of is that, you know, situations like this, whether it's a disaster situation or even a pandemic, there's going to be a certain level of PTSD that's going on.
Right.
Out there. And people may not understand how this is going to impact them later on. You could be having a random thought in one of the best moments, and just all of a sudden you can cry. And you may be like, whoa, what just happened to me?
Yeah.
You know, and like since Hurricane Maria and being on the ground in Puerto Rico, I have my own form of PTSD. Like, you know, that's what we're already talking about. 2017, that shit happened.
Yeah.
And just like a couple of days ago, I'm just scrolling through my photos and I started looking at some of my photos from that period. I just got emotional. It just I became flustered because that shit is deep rooted in you now, and it is such a life experience. The way the pandemic is, and people dealing with the pandemic, and not only that, but also dealing with current race relations in the world. This is a super traumatic experience for everyone to cope with and try to come out on the other side somehow.
Right. And for me, it's like, we don't all have to come out with new businesses and everything, just as long as you come out mentally okay. That's really the first thing. We all have to be okay within ourselves before we can go into ventures and be creative, and nobody should feel bad about not doing anything other than taking care of their health.
Sometimes people look, even with the organization that we're going to be creating, there are things that, let's say, people who were on that initial Zoom call who may not be a person that's part of whatever, but they may say, your legs, like, there's this dancer within the LGBTQ community, and we should put a focus on that because they have their own persecution that they have to deal with. And they may say, yeah, you know, I'm bringing this suggestion, which actually was my suggestion anyway. So one of the things that I am doing, because one of the things I'm doing is making sure that that aspect of life is dealt with.
Right.
And usually from within the hip hop scene, especially with the machismo that we come with, and the, you know, whatever hip hop is perceived to be in terms, you know, in terms of like how men are supposed
the
to
macho
be,
culture,
or women are supposed to be, or whatever, because you know there's a persecution of lesbians or whatever as well. So if me as a person who comes from my status, whatever you want to consider that, if that holds a certain amount of weight within my community that says like, yo, like, cut the shit, like, be accepting, you know, and be open, don't, you know, stop persecuting the LGBTQ community. You know, like, to me, it's like I'll put myself out there for that, and be supportive.
No, you have that platform.
I have the platform, and I'm willing to take the hits for it too.
Right.
You know, so because look, at the end of the day, I know so many people from that community who have been instrumental in the careers of so many hip hop heads.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's crazy how a lot of hip hop heads don't celebrate them. I mean, when we first started doing our
or not
show,
openly.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we first started doing our shows in the downtown scene, had it not been for the gumbo of people that we were as a community, the gay community, the Rastafarian community, the punk rock community, and then these kids from uptown, Manhattan, whatever, coming down to, you know, that, you know, coming together, hip hop would not be what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we gotta. I just feel like it's people gotta show love all around.
Yeah, definitely. It's you're making me think of this great talk that I had a guest, Sunny Janssen. She's a transgender woman, but she's a DJ, and hip hop is one of her first loves. And she told a story about when she first went to New York, and she saw Biggie perform at the Tunnel. Was it the Tunnel? I think so. So that, you know, she's older, so that was way back, and she's always been part of the hip hop community over here as well. So unfortunately, I got an Instagram error, so that whole interview got lost. But yeah, we have to include everyone, and especially in a time like this, we have to really, you know, spread the love, because love is everything that's healing in what's going on today. So I
also enabling them to feel like there are open arms for them from people who may not be LGBTQ. You know, where when they come out, you know, like you know, a friend of mine came out last year, and I was like, yo, my dude, honestly, I knew that shit for a long time, but I know you got your own process, and you still my brother, and I got your back. And if anyone fucks with you, you let me know, and we handle that shit. It's that simple.
Right.
And he's one of the top B-boys in the world. You know, B-boy
That's
Wicked.
Awesome.
B-boy Wicked.
Yeah.
So, and to me, it's like, yo, that's my brother. That's it. No questions asked after that.
Well, I like the fact that you use your influence to be that person, to show that that's, you know, how we should live and how people should embrace each other. I think that's amazing.
I just think it's disappointing that it took this long. Although I've never really cared after a certain point in my life, because I grew up in a very homophobic community. And you know, we were taught to like be like against them in certain areas, but then you start to mature and just be like, it ain't bothering me. I don't give a fuck. You know? That's,
Let everybody live.
Yeah. Then it's like, then you realize there's a whole bunch of other hip hop heads who are living this double lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that some of these people are living this double lifestyle as our homies and can't even be themselves with us.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I've had friends who have died who I knew they were living a double lifestyle, and I would just wish they were like, yo, just come out, man, it's all good.
Right.
Whatever. But they died living that double lifestyle and never got to be themselves. And never felt, you know, they always felt like, I feel like they felt like they were going to be rejected.
Right.
And to me, I was like, yo, my dude, like,
yeah, but even if you're if you're saying it, there's still a whole bunch of other people that are not saying that to them. So I can imagine.
I know plenty of people who are just straight fronting.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to say that that's their fault. It's just what it's
how that's what they know.
It's actually their trauma.
Yeah.
That they have to hide that shit. You know?
Do you think that the new generation hip hop or rap culture is more open to it?
Yeah. I think people are in a lot. They're in a much more freer society. Gen Z ain't having it.
Right.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna do me. I'm on my hippie parade right now, and it's just at the end of the day, it will become part of the norm, and it's only going in that direction. So I think people need to find a way to be comfortable with themselves and stop projecting their shit on other people because of their own weaknesses.
I agree. Yeah. Going back to the health routines. I know you just had surgery.
Yep.
What was that? Your wrist?
My knee.
Oh, your knee.
Meniscus surgery, and then I have a wrist surgery coming up in 2 days.
Oh, that one is coming up.
Yeah.
Talking about physical health. First of all, to me, you haven't aged today. You still look the same as when I first met you. I don't even know when that was. I feel like if you live a certain lifestyle, if you live your passion, if you do what you love, you stay forever young. But you actually have a physical passion. How is that? How is that for you now with all the surgeries and stuff?
You know, I'm 54, so it is what it is.
What? 54?
And I think when I was 25, somebody hit me with this idea of quarter of a century. Like that shit was part of like the beginning of my death sentence, and you know, for me, I felt like, why are you even saying that shit? Like, you know, like what the fuck? What is that supposed to mean to me when you say that? Are you looking at me as old at 25 or whatever? So I felt like from that point on my 26th birthday and ever since, I would say the number that I am. So it started with saying 26, go fuck yourself. You know?
27, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I've been doing that ever since the age of 26. So, because I feel like, especially when it comes to like people of color, where we kind of have it in our heads that we're supposed to be acting older physically,
right?
Which is dumb because it happens at a very, very early age within the Latino community and Black community, and we start letting ourselves go. You know, sometimes we don't recognize the conditions within our families, whether it be diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, whatever it is. And we don't, a lot of people have a hard time accepting or grappling with like, I can actually do something about that. I don't have to become fat.
Right.
You know,
I can stay healthy.
Yeah, I don't have to say some dumb shit like, oh, it runs in my family. You know?
Yeah.
Like making excuses. Oh, I got to give a shout out to Janicia Garcia. She's one of the people that I was talking about who's been on those Zoom calls and hope to have part of that organization that we're going to create. So shout out to her. She's an amazing warrior. I would hate to get
Thanks for tuning in and thank you for your work.
Yeah. So, anyway, for me physically, my motto is, gym, denial. I honestly, right there, I think a little bit of gym and denial goes a long way. You know,
Did that change? Did that routine change because of the pandemic when we had to lock down and stuff?
no, I stayed busy.
Okay.
Riding bike. But I became more limited because my injuries are things that had to be dealt with. So I couldn't train the way I wanted to train. So I had decided, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm gonna get all these surgeries and see what's gonna be the best version of myself after I take care of certain things, and keep pushing it and keep pushing it, and not give up on myself, and because at the end of the day, I still want to be an example for my son. I don't want my son to use as an excuse like, oh, this is how we get down to my family.
Right.
Because my older brothers, you know, I come from a family of dudes that always worked out. You know, even my sister works out. Everyone, all their lives, you know, for the most part, have worked out and stayed that kind of imagery for me. So there's kind of like the Cologne boys image, you know, that I have to live up to. So sometimes I tell my son, remember, you're a Cologne boy. You gotta be on point,
use that, man.
Yeah. And the thing is that I just want him to, if he ever has to reflect on something, and he says, yo, what am I, and he has to say, like, yo, what am I doing? My father at 54 was still pushing it. And I think a lot of people within the Latino community don't have those references often enough for the kids to be inspired. So I just want to be that example. And if because I love my son so much, that is also what gives me the drive.
Right.
So it's a little, he doesn't know that he's giving me right now what I need by just his existence.
Right.
So yeah.
Kids tend to do that. I'm not a mother, but I see it around my friends who are parents. He just had a birthday, right? Happy.
Yeah, he just turned 2 days ago. He turned 23.
Go fuck yourself.
Exactly.
He's not at 25 yet.
23, college graduate, has an amazing job. You know, all I can do is hope that we just have a great relationship for the rest of our lives and have good communication with each other.
Well, that's great. That's good to hear. And it's good to have that inspiration to stay healthy, but also to be that inspiration to stay healthy. Like you said, not a lot of people have that around them. I do not come from a necessarily physically fit family. I have good genes, but it doesn't mean that that I'm healthy on the inside. So I do have to work out, and I did feel it after I hit 40. And a lot of people tell me that I'm overreacting, but I really physically felt it when I hit 40. So I have to really stay active, not for the looks, but for the health. And that's what people say, oh, you don't have to go to the gym, you look fine. That's not what it's about. I can still drop dead, you know, from all kinds of inside problems.
my injuries are much worse when I'm not working out. So that right there says
that shows that it makes a difference.
And you know, when the thing about right now with the pandemic is that if one of the few things that you can do is control how you're living physically, fucking do it, because that eventually affects your mental.
Yeah.
And if you're having a hard time mentally, that idea of feeling good and looking good can change your perspective and your approach towards things. And that's what I'm fighting for right now. Yeah. You know, me personally, because, you know, I'm not susceptible to feeling like shit during this. Yeah. You know, it's you know, a constant cycle of the same shit every day, day in, day out. But if I could at least make sure that by the time all this is over, I'm coming out of it right, I'm going to be feeling good and looking good and you know, keep pushing.
No, and what you said is very true. Physical health and mental health are very much connected. Not a lot of people know this, but I've had a few types of cancer. And I truly believe that was related to my negative environment, my negative mind state. And ever since I've changed that, I haven't been sick. And of course, it has to do with all kinds of other factors as well. But I think, you know, staying positive and mentally healthy is really a big part of staying physically healthy, and the other way around.
Yeah.
So what, do you have a certain food routine, diet?
One of the things I don't do as much anymore, and I barely do, I barely have any kind of carbs at night. You know, I'm not saying I don't, but, you know, it's not like it used to be. Because growing up, you know, being Puerto Rican and just basically Caribbean food is very starchy.
Yeah.
So I had to change things like that. And yeah, you know, that's one of the main things. And then, you know, when you're in training mode, one of the things is making sure that you're not eating after 8 o'clock if you're going to sleep mad early. You're not doing anything physical. So, you know, because if you're still moving, and let's say you eat at 7:30 and then you don't get to sleep until like 2 o'clock, and you've been moving around, exerting energy and all those things, you're just sucking your body dry.
Yeah.
But then you have to say, okay, what am I going to eat at that time? And
Drink water.
I'm not going to front. I've been having a little bit of ice cream lately.
Well, I
have my sweet tooth, like my sweet tooth. I like my chocolate.
Oh yeah, same.
I do have I'm down. You know, so for me, it's like I don't like the idea of like going into cold turkey or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
wean
I also
off.
feel
Have
like
your little cheat days.
Yeah, I also feel like I'm not trying for perfection, and I like my little guilty pleasures. So, you know, if I feel like having some chocolate, yeah, I'm gonna have some fucking chocolate.
I do the same. I have to say, I started being a vegetarian since January 1st. So 3 months in, I didn't eat any meat. I did eat fish, didn't eat any meat. And then Corona hit, and I had to stay cooking, and then I think in April, I had a piece of chicken again. I was like, I'm tired of thinking of what to make. And I think I'm doing pretty well, because I feel like labeling myself a vegetarian is not really correct. I just try to keep a healthy balance for what works for my body. I'm lactose intolerant, so can't do the cheeses and the milks and whatnots. And ever since I stopped eating meat, or not eat meat as much anymore, and stopped dairy products, I've been feeling so much better.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how that works. So I never realized that.
Yeah, I honestly, I normally don't. The only time I have any kind of dairy is maybe that much in my coffee in the morning. That's about it. Other than that, I'm not really eating dairy shit anyway.
Yeah,
like I you know, I have almond milk in the refrigerator.
I have coconut milk for everything. Yeah. Like I use coconut milk for everything. I love that.
Yeah. So.
So, and mentally, do you meditate? Have you gone to therapy? Do you talk to your friends? Are there things that you implemented in your life that helped you mentally? Probably working out, probably, you know, dancing.
Well, that's the thing. When your physicality is taken away from you, and that is your therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? You know what's my therapy? Cleaning.
Really? Well, I got a place that needs cleaning.
Cleaning, and when I'm in Puerto Rico, working on my lawn. That is like that, and also boxing. Those are things that allow you to have a little bit of escapism and focus on something and take a break, so that you could come back to it mentally. Because if it's just a constant cycle of shit, and you don't have a distraction to pull away from it, to kind of like catch a breather, you know, you're just stuck in that. It's like, you know, when I was, when I first realized I had PTSD after Hurricane Maria, I reached out to this guy who was a Army Ranger, and he was actually in Puerto Rico with me doing some of the relief efforts. And I felt, and I had these moments where first of all, the first 17 days of Hurricane Maria, being there and doing all the work and dealing with people and, you know, on the brink of starvation and death and all this other stuff, I cried 17 days straight.
Wow.
At least once a day. And then after doing multiple trips, it got to a point where I would be over here, I would just be like out of nowhere an emotional wreck, and I wouldn't understand what was happening.
Catching up to you, yeah.
Yeah, so I called my boy, and I was just like, yo, what is going on with me? and he was just like, look, you know what? You have a mild form of PTSD.
Yeah.
And what you're doing right now is part of dealing with it. You talk about it, and that's basically it. Even like doing this right now, saying that I deal with it,
addressing it
is part of dealing with it.
Oh yeah.
You know, but at the same time, you know, it's also me knowing that I'm mentally able to go right back in there and do the same thing again, which I have recently after the earthquakes in Puerto Rico. So, you know, yeah, so that's one of the things, you know, and
well, you're aware of what you're dealing with. A lot of people that deal with PTSD don't even know what it is that causes it. You knew that it came from, you know, the situation with Hurricane Maria, but the fact that one of the things that I've been to therapy for all kinds of, you know, issues that I've had and traumas, but I was never aware that I had those traumas. So it wasn't until therapy that I realized, hey, wait a minute. And she just asked a question, and that made me think, and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Yeah. So awareness, I think, is one of the biggest things towards healing, the biggest steps towards healing. So for you to be aware of it, and then also being able to talk about it, because a lot of people, there's still a whole taboo on mental health and mental issues. I mean, shout out to Shanti Das and Silence and Shame.
You know, depending upon, I guess, what your level is, that determines how you're dealing with shit. But it's not like, you know, my shit is just emotional. It's not anything about like, yo, legs just wig down and punch somebody in the face because you have a flashback of being in a desert storm or some crazy shit. Right. You know, it's more a personal thing.
Yeah, that's true. People, I do see the questions coming in. We'll get to the questions in a minute. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, because you've had an extensive career, if I can call it that, as a b-boy, you know, as an influencer, role model in hip hop culture. What is one of the biggest mistakes that you've made that turned out to be one of the biggest lessons that you want to give out to whoever's watching? It could be business-wise or personally, or
when you're dealing with a large group, like dealing with a crew is interesting. And within your crew, you could, if you're not, number one, I wasn't prepped to be a leader of a crew. It's something that happened when I was a little kid. So there was no courses in sociology or communications or anything like that.
You gotta just learn as you go.
On some ghetto shit, you know? and it got to a point where in the early 90s that I had, you know, Mr. Wiggles kind of put in my head, like, you know, in order to be successful at being a leader, you're gonna have to sometimes be able to take criticism from your own crew and not redirect it.
Right.
And just take it in. So one of the things that we had came up with in Rocksteady back then was that if something's pointed out about you, you can't kind of like try to retaliate or be defensive. You gotta like take it in, deal with it.
You gotta be open to that.
Yeah. And then you have to be open. There has to be an open door for criticism. Because at the end of the day, it's, you know, I may be president of Rocksteady, but it shouldn't be a totalitarian kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, also learning how to delegate, learning how to make sure that you are using the expertise that a person may have within a certain area. So let's say, for instance, lead a Rocksteady crew, we're in rehearsal. I'm not the best choreographer for a stage show. Right. I do my thing in certain areas, but there's also saying to yourself, all right, well, Wiggles is the best one with that. Wiggles is in charge. But then if we're in a group setting and Wiggles walks out the room and says, okay, B-Girl Mega, you're in charge now. I gotta respect that and follow Mega now,
Yeah.
because Wiggles knows like
What he's doing.
everyone's specialty and who can manage a situation and who can run the operations of creating a dance piece. So part of that is knowing when to be a follower.
Well, that's what you're doing now with the whole Red Bull situation. Like you said, you know what not necessarily your strengths are, so you're putting other people in those places. Yeah, and I do believe that is the way that teamwork is built upon. You have to be open to feedback or criticism on what is not your strength. And if you recognize it in other people, then put them in that position, because together you can be so, you're as strong as your weakest link. If you remain to be the weakest link, you need to step back.
Yeah. And you know, even with, like, let's say, for instance, in Rocksteady Crew, another thing is I realized that I'm not in the mental position to want to be dealing with recruitment.
Right.
You know, so I also know that things are changing and certain things should be done in a certain way. So one thing is, you know, Why Not was already senior vice president of Rocksteady. So he was already in charge of recruiting or whatever that is going to happen in that aspect. But at the same time, I made B-Girl Phoenix vice president of Rocksteady, which is a major move, because no major crew has ever made a female, a VP of a crew like that. Yeah. You know, not that I know of. Like, you know, a frontline B-Girl to be that, like, when the crew isn't created by a woman. Yeah. You know what I mean? How many dudes have said, you know, okay, Phoenix or B-Girl, whatever, you're vice president, you know? But I'm not. How
does that work, though, the recruitment? I never knew, so
I don't know. They got to figure that shit out themselves right now. I don't know what they're doing.
How many people does Rocksteady consist of?
About 50, and that's DJs, MCs, B-boys, writers, all that stuff.
Do you have a cap?
No, I mean, I think it's honestly, that's for Why Not and Phoenix to tell you.
That's fine.
I no longer have anything to do with that. I felt like it was time for me to pass that part of Rocksteady Crew on.
Yeah, you don't have the mental capacity for that anymore.
Yeah, there's other things that I'm involved with.
Right.
You know, like I enjoy doing what I do in Puerto Rico, and I also like making sure that we heighten the awareness of Latino contribution within hip hop, because I think a lot of that is getting lost within a lot that's happening right now. Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that there are certain contributions by Latinos where if you were to eliminate them, there would be a lot of difficulties. So let's say eliminate Joe Conzo's photos from hip hop. Yeah. You know how many holes there would be in trying to tell the visual story of hip hop without Joe Conzo's photos?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Shout out to Joe Conzo.
So, and then there's a dude named Tape Master. Tape Master basically was this dude who would go to Puerto Rican cat who would go to these jams and bring his setup, his box or whatever, and record the live jams that ended up being like the first recordings of, you know, at least mass-produced recordings of hip-hop. You know, so Tape Master was a Puerto Rican cat. You know, when he got those recordings to the local record store, and those got out into the hood, now you have, so there was flyers and then word of mouth, and now you have actual recordings of like the Cold Crush Brothers and all these other people. And I'm not going to say that other people didn't do it before him or weren't doing it at all.
Structured or
but
consistent.
He had a huge amount of product out there that, you know, I would look forward to going to a place called Rhythm Den in the Bronx and buying that Tape Master recorder of Cold Crush Brothers. And that made me become a fan of Cold Crush Brothers. Right. Mind you, there's no record industry yet.
Right, yeah.
For hip hop. So again, now if you try to remove Joe Conzo's photos and everything Tape Master recorded, it becomes harder and harder to tell the story of
the history. The history is just wiped. Yeah.
Well, a lot of history is wiped out. because a lot of the artists themselves weren't recording themselves.
Yeah.
Didn't have a photographer.
But that's my point. If we didn't have Joe or a tape master, then there would be nothing, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, except for the dude doing Polaroids at the Disco Fever or something. You know?
Hey, he may still be out there. Let me take some of the questions. Okay, so here's a question from Tope1562. Who was the coldest up rocker in your opinion?
The one who came in without a coat. It all depends. Back then, I would say between 3 dudes, because I wasn't necessarily a person who followed up rocking. It's weird because you had different versions of up rocking in the Bronx and Brooklyn. But the people, from what I saw, there were these 2 dudes that used to hang around on Crotona Avenue, 183rd. I forgot their names. I don't even know what crew they were in. But then there was this dude named Eddie Ed, who was part of Dynamic Rockers. And then there was Mingo and Amigo Rock from Manhattan.
Okay, that's your answer?
And wait, yeah, that. But I would say one of my ultimate is Doze. Devious Doze.
And I would not know who that is. So I'm
Doze Green.
Tope one.
Doze, D-O-Z-E.
I hope your question is answered. There are
Okay.
There are a few more because I'm looking at the time as well.
Yep.
Lex, how did you end up in a Michael Jackson's Bad video?
Interesting. I had submitted there was a point where I was trying to get like extra work and trying to get into film, whatever. And I got called to do an audition for this project. And the audition was I had to go to this office in Midtown, and I met with the director, and the director was Martin Scorsese.
Oh, wow.
And he had me read for him, and I had never read in my life before for any director. And Martin Scorsese tells me, you know, if you ever decide to act, when you live a little more, you can be a great actor.
Wow. And that was the first time.
Yeah, so I didn't get the part.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, the person who got the part was Wesley Snipes. So
wow.
But you know, so
it's not a shame to lose against him.
Hey, no, that's my dude.
Right.
And so, you know, I ended up having like a small part just as an extra or whatever, and that was it. That's how I got into the Bad video.
That's a cool story, actually.
Yeah.
I have a few more questions. B-Boy Ty 00. I'm an LGBT and autistic breaker, and I'm nervous to come out. Do you have any words of advice for?
I honestly, I would reach out to someone like Wicked, B-Boy Wicked, because he could tell you the pros and cons of coming out, which I don't think there are any cons because he seems happier than ever. And also, he might be able to express to you the cons of waiting so long.
Right.
You know, so if there's anything that I could do in order, as a way to support, whether it's a shout out or anything, when you do come out, let me know and I got your back.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm happy that the person felt free enough to ask.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's
yes.
First time that's ever happened. I've ever seen that happen like that. So I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, I'm happy that we could facilitate that at least. Okay, yeah. Very small letters here. Not a question, but a shout out to Crazy and RSC. The song and cover of Hey You got me into hip hop, graph, and drawing. That's actually my dude, Quincy, and he did my latest tattoo.
Dope.
Yeah, let me just show it off a little bit. It's a phoenix.
Nice.
And he's going to do the rest of my arm as well. Nice one to know. The next one will be Boba Fett, a hip hop Boba Fett. So as we're coming towards the end of this conversation, I wanted to ask you for two more things, actually three more things. One, if you can tell in short, one of the funniest anecdotes in your career.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh, okay. I was at the Puerto Rican Day Parade, dress fly, sun is out, Central Park, walking in this area where, and it's not even hip hop, but it's embarrassing. I'm walking, so you have a whole line of horses, police on the horses, mounted on there. Other side is just people, and then I'm just walking in the street, chilling. I'm feeling myself. Walk by this horse. The horse sneezed in my face and put fucking boogers all over.
Oh!
And all I could do was go like, oh man.
Oh my God.
And just walk fast and straight.
Nobody got that on camera. Joe wasn't around?
No.
That would have been a classic photo.
It was disgusting. I was like,
so what did you do? Did you go and change? Did you wash up? Did you find somebody with like tissue or?
I think I have a whole blackout moment of my life at that point because I don't remember what I did because all I remember is that, I really don't remember what I did.
You blocked the rest of that memory.
It was disgusting. Yeah, everything else is just...
That horse picked you for that day. The horse was fed up.
Maybe that was some karma.
Maybe. Well, you
down payment. It was a down payment.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe your blessing for that one will come still. Okay, I always like to speak things into existence for my guests. Is there anything that you have on your bucket list or something that you want to do or reach a goal in your life? Then we're going to speak that into existence today.
I want to continue to bridge the gap between people born in Puerto Rico and the diaspora. Because I think there's a major disconnect there. And, you know, the way they needed us after Hurricane Maria to arrive with supplies and helping people in a desperate situation, we need them for the sake of our cultural roots.
Yes.
So, and do we want to be 5 million here, 3 million there, or do we want to be 8+ million together?
Right. Well, we speak it into existence. We're going to keep bridging the gap. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but Why Not's always there with his smart remarks. He's at Snot Steady. That was hilarious.
Yeah, especially during allergy season.
Well, not during Corona season, because now everybody thinks you got Corona when you sniff or sneeze.
Well, right now it makes it harder for everyone to figure out, you know? So yeah it's kind of whack. Like when I go for my surgery, they're like, have you been having these symptoms? I'm like, look, man, I got allergies every year. Yeah. Same thing. Nothing's changed.
Right.
Just get me on the
your immune system must be on point with your health routine, so you can't get the Ronas.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here like I'm the healthiest dude in the world, but...
but you're not the unhealthiest either.
Yeah, I try.
All right, well, before we round up, I see more questions coming in, actually. Let's see. Okay, a bird poop on my hand. Thank you for letting us know. Of course, this is probably a question that people have asked you before. Which movie do you think is better, Beat Street or Breakin'?
Beat Street is about breaking. Breakin' is about popping and locking.
That doesn't answer the question.
Honestly, I didn't like.
There's no comparison. You say.
I didn't like either one.
Good. Okay.
As a movie, because I like good writing. I like good directing. I like a good story. You know, and neither one of those had anything. Like at the end of the day, it's a hip hop meets ballet story, which is so corny. It's so fucking corny, you know.
And they still kept making them after that.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, it's like I prefer that we just put a focus on creating our own stories. I do have a documentary that's going to be worked on. Budget approved already, a major budget feature documentary. We do have a Broadway, a Rocksteady Crew Broadway play that's also going to be developed. So I'm more focused on telling our story,
Stories, yeah.
you know,
The
by
actual
us,
stories.
and stop having other people tell our
Right.
stories. It's more
Um,
empowering.
Talking about stories, I'm going to call out a friend of mine. He's going to be very mad at me for doing this. So one of my best friends is a DJ in London, and he told me he had interviewed you about 15 years ago or something. And when he had you in the studio, the first thing he puts on is the intro for "Hey You," and you got really, you got really heated, and he was like, "Oh no, it was just like a little
Tell him
piece."
he's not the first one.
I know. I told him that. You probably get that all the time. So I was going to ask you, if you had gotten $1 for every time somebody start playing that song over your whole career, how much money would you have right now?
Yeah. Look, here's the thing. I'd be rich, but also I was at a point where, like you know, just recognizing everything that happened. We made music that we didn't want to make. We were put into a situation that we weren't striving for, and it was very difficult. But at the same time, that still was one of the springboards for where hip hop is right now.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to shit on someone's personal memories and experience that they had growing up.
This is him right here. He says,
yeah,
"Why are you doing this pay?"
Yeah. So, you know, actually, I should be apologizing to him for shitting on his experience. I wish
No. He said you warmed up later, but he felt like, oh shit.
No, but I also had to assess after that, like, you know, what am I doing when I put something like that down?
Yeah.
You know, by just putting it down, you know, because, you know, I let my bitter feelings about what happened surrounding that impact my reaction to him.
Right.
Where it just should have been like, yo, cool word, that's dope, man. I appreciate that, man. I'm glad it had a great impact on you.
That's
and
so awesome
that, you know?
that you say that, because he's now mad at me. But you know what, Teddy? He got to apologize to you
but
now.
And now he understands where it came from. It was
well,
it wasn't him.
Mad at it.
It was my own shit.
Right. Well, I'm glad that I got to clear that up for you, Ted. So you should be thankful that I brought that up.
Yes, you owe her some tattoo donations.
Well, we have to. I see more questions coming in, people. I'm so sorry, but I will not be taking more questions because I want to wrap this up with asking you if you have some life advice or a life motto that you live by that you want to give out to the people. Oh, shout out Rob Manga. I see you.
Take a shorty under your wing and be a protege to a kid out there who needs it. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
How many do you have?
I've had so many throughout my life. I'm actually helping a girl who is friends of one of the girls that works with me, Nina. There's this girl who recently graduated from the school that she went to. She's a DJ, and she wants to become a DJ. And she was asking me like, "Hey, can you mentor me?" And I was like, "You know what? Let me find a female to mentor you. You know, who I really respect, is really dope, and let her not only to just let you know how you should go about your DJing, but let you know how to deal with being a DJ as a woman within the scene."
Right.
So that's one of the things.
I'm getting the countdown, so I want to take this opportunity to really thank you for this great conversation, all the stuff that you were saying and the things that you're doing. I have the utmost respect for you, always have. Thank you for being a guest. Thank you for inspiring everyone.
Shout out to Curtis Blow.
Yep.
Curtis Blow.
Yep. I did speak to Curtis one day. Maybe Curtis wants to be a guest as well.
And let me just give you a heads up on Curtis. Curtis, it's funny because Curtis has a very unique lane within hip hop as a recording artist, but when you start digging deep into the amount of things that Curtis Blow had his hands in,
I did an interview with him before.
Super impressed,
when he was out here.
It's his contribution to the entertainment industry for hip hop is pretty amazing, and I think at heart Curtis Blow is just a b-boy.
Curtis, thank you for popping in real quick. Lex, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Good luck with your surgery next week, and we'll be in touch. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope everyone stays safe. I'll be back on Monday with Egyptian, so stay tuned for that one.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
All right.